it's just a lightning talk. So what we will talk about is, first we need to understand the user management, and then what roles and what is the use of roles in PostgreSQL. And then one use case I'll talk about, which is a common use case whenever we have a lot of tables, schemas. So we need to have access on those for specific users. So how we can grant that, and in still 14 what we used to do, and after 14 what features we have, so that easily we can grant the access or the privileges on the database objects. Yeah, so coming to the user management, always we have a term called as role, and then users and group, right? So can anybody tell me what is the difference between these three in PostgreSQL? Yeah, so three, if you talk about role, group and user, three are same, but only the difference is logging access. So when we talk about the user can log into the database, but group and the roles will be just maintaining the privileges, right? So now if you see, like we can define a granular level permissions on users, like I have two users who can do, who can log into the database. But what I have to do is, every time I have to grant if they want select permission or insert, update, delete, or usage privileges, then I have to grant it manually, right? So this is something like, if you have a bigger database or multi-tenant schemas inside the database, and if you want to maintain these privileges, which is a complicated one, and always you'll feel that, okay, this is difficult to have, right? So that is what, like, managing the users is something challenging when you have a lot of objects in your database. So now what is the roles? Actually, it will reduce our burden by saying that, okay, instead of granting on to the users, if you want to have any specific privileges, and that set of privileges should be given to the different users who are logging to the database, then instead of granting privileges to each and every separate user, better to create one role, and that role can be granted to a user who is logging to the database, right? That is what we do right now. So if you have a multi layer, or you have multiple objects, right, then again the complexity level becomes high. So for that, okay, this is something what we are doing right now. Like we will have some separate users. In next use case, we'll talk about more on that part. But so privileges will be given to the roles, and roles are non-logging, like they cannot log into the database. So what we will do is, we will always grant the roles to the users. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Next. Okay, the use case. Now let me take an example of a database where I have more than 100 schemas in that, and in each and every schema I have 100 tables. So now Vikas came to me and he's asking me, like, we need to have two separate users. One user has to do, which is a common use case I'm talking about. So he'll do the read-write operations, and another reporting user, he want to have only read-only access on all these schemas. Now what we will do, now if I'm on, if I talk about the older versions of Postgres below 14, then what I'll do is, I'll have two separate users, right, who needs roles, who needs all the permissions inside the schema, just read-only permissions, and we'll have a separate role with read-write access, right? So if you see, we'll first create two roles. That is first command. Second is, we will grant appropriate privileges to those roles, like select for read-only, and DML with select to read-write. And then what we will do is, we'll create the one more. Okay, and then what we'll do is, we'll grant those read-only role to the users who is doing reporting, or who needs only read-only access on all the tables inside the database. And similarly, if any application user, he needs a read as well as write privileges, then we'll grant this. So if you see, we have around 4 to 5 commands, but the thing is, if you have a multiple users, right, and multiple users and multiple objects, then it will become a complex to you, because along with this one, always you need to take care of maintaining the privileges for future tables. Like if somebody is creating a new schema or a new table, then you need to consider those also, so that same permission should be granted, right? So similarly, when I talk about Postgres 14, so there are set of privileges or predefined roles. So if you see this screenshot, like this is from Postgres documentation, whereas here are some of the predefined roles. If I want to give all the access, I mean the read-only access on all the schemas to a simple reporting user, so what I can do is just grant pg_read all data to that user, so that he will be having all the access, including the usage privileges on that schema and the tables. Now if consider that I have application user, so what I'll do is just run single command, grant pg read all data and write all data, so that he'll be having access of both, right, writing and reading. So similarly, if I take a case of a monitoring, right, so what monitoring user will do, he's always try to connect to your stats table, that is like pg_star. So instead of giving read access, why can't I give just monitoring access, right? What they'll do is they'll go and connect only to the statistic tables. So likewise, we can make use of this one from 14. So recently, when I was working with the customer, even 2 months back, I have found this option, though it was available in Postgres 14. So this is something I thought like I should bring it up. And yeah, thank you.
In PGConf and the PG Hala meetup, yes, and a very
of conference.
yeah, thank you. I haven't asked anybody any question, but please try to interrupt me as much as you can. This is a very tiny topic, but it has a large impact on the system, and this is in context of Oracle migration to Postgres. And this is related to the user privileges or the grants, which Rajesh already touched based a little bit on that. And it is a little bit extent, I'm trying to do it where the whole migration is converted, the database is converted, everything is done, but still they are not able to make use of, or they are getting a lot of other issues, because the Oracle and Postgres had different set of behavior, which might have skipped it, or you might not notice it earlier. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is something, for example, how Oracle treats, So how Oracle treats the table, how he maintained it, and how Postgres maintained it, right? So normally we create the application user, which application being configured to access database or make use of the DML accesses and everything. And application user is associated with the application role normally, so segregating giving the write commands, DML grants, and DBA has the DDL access and something like that. And then that role have access on the schema. A schema in Oracle, basically a user, could be a user. So, and the schema itself is the owner of the table underline, which they have created under that schema, store procedure, function, triggers, whatnot. So it has been owned by that schema, and he has given certain access to app role and so on, and maybe the multiple other roles, which is cross schema and all, right? But the owner, why I'm stressing owner, because when we call a store procedure or function, it will drive the privileges from there. So, and in Postgres, on the other hand, right, is a bit different. We have similar mechanism, app user, app role, and schema, under schema we create the store procedure, function, table, etc. But the owner is a bit different here. Schema is not the owner. Owner could be anybody. Owner is different. He is basically own the objects table, and he provides, or from here you drive the grants to the other places. So that's why it's different here. right? So you understood. In Oracle, user or schema itself is the owner of the objects, where in Postgres, it could be different, right? This is the Postgres way, not the Oracle way, right? Okay, let's move on. So the type of security this topic I prepared is about the store procedure function only. There are other areas of privileges grants, but I'm not touching that. I'm stressing on this portion, which changes a lot when we convert the store procedure. We try to, convert the Oracle procedure in Postgres and try to run, or expecting him to run in the same way it was running in Oracle, right? So Postgres have an option invoker, right? This is the default option. So if a user call a store procedure from any schema, right, it runs with the invoker's privileges. So if I have access on the table which my store procedure is going to make DMLs, I should have access, right, to those schemas or those objects. So that privileges will be applied to the store procedure which I call. And if that store procedure making update to the table, it will happen if the user have access, right? So this is the default behavior. User have access. Schema or owner could be anybody, but user has access to specific tables. I call this store procedure, I'm able to make update. But if I don't have access on those table, DML access, my store procedure will fail with saying access denied, or you do not have permission, and so on. Okay, on the definer side, if we define a store procedure or create a store procedure run with the definer privileges, which is by default in Oracle. So if I have I created a schema ABC, I have a store procedure AB or IJK, and I call it, and it's the owner, right? I am the owner, so schema privileges, the owner privileges will get executed. Means I own a table, set of 100 tables maybe. My store procedure ABC might be updating 50 other tables, and the store procedure runs with the definer privileges, right? User calls it, it does everything. User has zero grant on the schema or the object owner and all. Doesn't matter. I have access to the store procedure, and store procedure run with the definer. I can, truncate the whole table, or whatever the store procedure doing. Basically, he can do it because he is running as the owner of the store procedure and underlying objects, so he can do it. So that's the major differences in these two parts. Now, can we move on? So why it's important while converting or while creating a store procedure like this way? So especially with the Oracle to Postgres conversion, this will create the permission issues. You think I have created all the store procedure or converted the store procedure in Oracle way, but it will lead to the permission issue. Then your user, you need to give him extra grants, like one table have a trigger update, certain other trigger tables, but not by the definer, by the invoker. Then you have to give additional accesses to the users. You have to give additional, and there is a public grants also, because by default its execution is on public, but in Oracle it doesn't go that way. Can we go to the next? What we are trying to suggest, this is basically when we convert, try to adopt the Postgres way, if possible, best possible way. This is the way to go forward. Segregate, create the segregation, what we normally DBA does. Segregate the application role, the other roles and all, and give the appropriate grants. And if we really have to use definer privileges, please be sure that you remove the public grants from that objects. Otherwise, anybody can call that procedure and can make harm to the system. That's all. Yeah, thank you.